just a couple days ago, I posted a Instagram clip or TikTok or whatever the heck people do about San Jose School District and its, I don't know, budgetary battle with the mayor. And then I learned that the mayor, Matt Mahan, is running for governor of California, right? So San Jose is up in Northern California and he's running for governor. So it got me thinking, is he blocking helping fund the local school district because it's the right thing to do? Or is he doing it because of political motivations? I don't know. I never met the man. I never met the superintendent. I don't know anything about it. But I would say this. I have been involved in politics. Oh, golly, running political campaigns and dealing with all this craziness for decades now. And I'll tell you this. Politics comes into every single decision. Every single decision that you got from a governor standpoint, school board, the politicians, you know what they want? They want the next job, right? So they're always thinking about that from that standpoint. And so I did the research. I wanted to dig into, should the San Jose mayor, who's running for governor, help fund the school district or not? So I did some research, and I'm going to share it with you guys in kind of a summary form today, because I think it's important to understand all the facets of why people do what they do. And it's never, look, I rarely found out that a person's stated reason why they do something is the only reason. Oftentimes they're underlying undisclosed reasons, maybe even subconsciously or consciously. Anyway, all right, so here are the facts. San Jose School District just voted to close 5 elementary schools. Okay, well, why? It's because they lost 6,000 students from their enrollment since 2017. And that means that they're now at a $30 million deficit. And that's a big problem. Now, the mayor of the city of those schools is running for governor on a platform of, get ready for it, fiscal responsibility. Okay, that's important. So if he says, I'm a fiscally responsible person, so it's worth asking, then whose responsibility is the school district, right? So I got some little factoids here from you, but I got to paint this picture so we know what we're dealing with, which is the budget for the school district peaked in 23-24 at about $500 million. It dropped $41 million the next year. Spending barely moved. And so that means that's a $49 million swing in 2 years. Okay. Simultaneously, the district spending went up by 34% over 5 years, while enrollment fell 13%. And employee headcount went up. Now, what does this mean? It means they spent more money, but they have less students. And at first instinct, that seems like that's bunk. If you have less students, your expenses should go down. But that's not the way a public institution of public good works. It's just not how it works. And I'll tell you what, I'm gonna go back to old school study. There was a study that came out that said that I think this was a 50-year study starting in the 1970s, and so it came out probably 8 or 9 years ago, and it said in the last 50 years. I know I'm being silly with the first, but that's just the way I hear it in my ears, because the person was being sarcastic in the study. I mean, they were being very attacky without having a very clear picture of the data, right? And data can lie to you as much as it can help you if you're not careful. So the study said in the last 50 years, employee counts have gone up 50%, but student counts have gone up, oh gosh, I think it was around 12%. So they're like, clearly you're wasting money. You're just hiring your friends and your family. And so we don't have more students. So why do you need more people? Well, you got to dig into the facts a little bit more. And the facts are that in the same 50-year time span, the amount of bureaucracy placed upon public schools has increased by a massive magnitude. Since then, we've had the Department of Education on a federal level created. Do you think they want paperwork? Yes. Does somebody have to fill out the paperwork? Yes. Do they want it in triplicate? Yes. Do they want a pound of blood? Yes. Right? Now you have to hire all these people just to fill out all the paperwork. At the same time, the No Child Left Behind came about. That means everyone has to report on standards and reports. And so the more bureaucracy you create and the more reports you give, the more people have got to complete the forms. So we, the people, through our elected representatives, demanded we wanted more paperwork, more bureaucracy, more studies, more data. And the districts have to hire people to fund that. We never, in the last 50 years, we haven't said, you know what we're going to do from a federal level or even state level? You know what we're going to do? We're just going to give you more money for teachers. That's always a fight. It's always a fight to get more money for teachers, but not more money for paperwork, right? And so we got to be a little careful here because we don't know the full story behind San Jose's increase in spending. Now, were they spending to try to save some schools? Did they have to spend more because people wouldn't allow them to close those schools? Because the public goes, we must keep the schools open, even though the schools are not efficient anymore because they don't have enough students in them because they're losing students. I don't know where this 34% increase could have, but I'm curious. And if I was the mayor, I would lean into that. If I'm going to run on a statement of fiscal responsibility, I couldn't find anything in the letters I was reading that says that the mayor, governor candidate, has said they're just wasting money, and here's where A, B, and C. Not a broad word salad statement of they're wasting money, right? Like, don't fall for that, right? Don't be so naive. That's just political talk. If they have concrete facts of where they're wasting money, let's hear it. Let's get into it, man. Because look, every organization that has multi-million-dollar budgets has waste. We have waste here at KSF. I don't like it. It drives me crazy. But we don't have a $500 million budget. We have like a $10-12 million budget or something. And I should know that, shouldn't I? Is expense. So there's going to be waste in every organization. The question is it waste you can correct, or is it a nature of the bureaucracy or whatever? So if you're going to be the candidates of fiscal responsibility, know the fiscal responsibility, know where the money's being wasted, right? And it's also about the closure of these schools. The school closure story is being told as an enrollment story, right? But it's also maybe a spending discipline story. It's also a community story, and whether or not the school was, and I keep saying allowed to close. Now, look, if you think that public schools are allowed to close schools whenever they want to, they're not. The communities, what I found working in this space for decades now is, oh no, they're not. The public loses their minds, maybe correctly, maybe because that's where they went to school, maybe because they just didn't understand it, or because people don't want to have change. They want to have the same exact thing over and over again. So people don't want to close schools, even though it would be better for the students. Irrelevant. We don't want to change, right? So I don't really know, but another key factoid to this, kind of continue to mince this up. Don't worry, I'm going to try to solidify this with some stronger opinions, because it's not like the city's budget is totally tight either, right? Like, I'm going to give it to both sides here, man, right? But I did see this, that it does raise red flags to me that the school district passed a $1.15 billion with the B bond in November of 2024. That seems like a lot of cheddar. That's a lot of money. What can they use it for, right? So voters said yes. Voters said yes. I mean, the voters are supporting the school district. Awesome sauce, right? But the schools are closing anyway. So what was that bond for? Is it being used efficiently? And I bet, and I didn't pull all this up because I wanted to get this done. Maybe I need to do a follow-up. I bet that was for capital improvements of making the current schools better, cleaner, fresher, all those things, technology and all that stuff. I doubt it was a $1.15 billion bond to raise teacher salaries and to hire more employees, right? Like, I'm just going to say, I don't think that was the answer, but I might have to dig into this, and we'll have a supplemental thing to this. Okay, so we know that the district's budget's going up, students are going down. Makes me nervous. Are they wasting too much money? Are they using it really prudently? Are they doing any cost-cutting measures? Let's do a deep dive, right? Because the goal should be not a political one, not to get elected, not just to increase a budget to increase a budget. I don't know. That's not the goal. Is the additional money going to help the kids? Will it help the kids? Because if you don't help them now, you're going to be paying for them later, right? So let's talk about this platform of fiscal responsibility. Is it short-term, or is it a long-term fiscal plan? Okay, let's talk about the city budget for a minute. All right. So San Jose is running a $5.5 billion operating budget. It's a big city, right? Like, that's a pretty healthy city budget. In Memphis, I live in Memphis, Tennessee. I think it's like $650 million budget. The school budget here is $1 billion, but the city budget's like 650 for the city. Anyway, so $5.5 billion operating budget. That's big. Now, they're running a $35 million shortfall. That means they didn't have enough money. They're borrowing it, right? And they're projected to have a $56 million loss next year. Whoa. So like now I'm starting to kind of side with Mahan, right? Like I get it. Like he's already in a shortfall. He doesn't have money to be thrown away right now, but 5.5 billion compared to the school budget of 506 million. So where do you think there's more waste? Just on a scale size, right? We're talking what? 10, 11, the city's budget is like 11 times bigger. On a per capita basis, you know that there's waste and fraud, and not like, look, I will say waste. I don't know about fraud. Okay. We haven't done a forensic audit or anything, but there's waste in both of them. But just on the scale side, Mr. Mayor, you got a $5.5 billion budget. You're running a shortfall too. I get you don't want to throw away money. I get that. And the other thing is the city's rainy day reserve fund dropped from 63 million, which is not, by the way, a great rainy day fund for an organization with 5.5 billion. That's not a great rainy day fund, but it dropped from 63 to 12, which is a terrible rainy day fund. So they're not sitting on any cash. Okay. Now, where's the mayor spending his money, the taxpayers' money? Because I was curious about that, because 5.5 billion is a lot of dollar signs, a lot of zeros behind that, right? Now, he does have some new innovative programs on interim homeless housing, but somewhere north of 30 million is being spent on 3 interesting things. Not the children. Elizabeth, you're sitting over there. You paying attention, because this is kind of up your alley. She's a big sports girl. She loves it. She digs it, right? Do you want to know where he's spending that 30 million? You curious?
Yes.
Yeah. See, I don't share all my notes with Elizabeth ahead of time. So preparing for the Super Bowl, the FIFA World Cup, and NCAA March Madness. Now, Super Bowl, FIFA, NCAA. Those are a lot of bells and whistles, lights going off, things that bring a lot of attention to a city. If I was running for mayor, if I was running for governor, I like bells and whistles. I like a lot of lights on me. I like a lot of people paying attention. I like the world looking at me, because if I'm running for governor, you know what I want to run for next? President. So I'm not, look, I don't know, man. I wasn't sitting on these city council meetings, but it's like, sums up. It's just interesting to me, because those are 3 massive endeavors to prepare for. All of them. And by the way, I think they're all really cool. I want to go to the Super Bowl. I like to go to the World Cup. I don't get invited to NCAA March Madness Final Four like some people that I'm sitting across the table from, but they're all pretty cool. But is cool the right thing to do? So I had to do some separate research, kids. All right, some separate research is, do these things, the World Cup, Super Bowl, add or take away from the city's budget, like long term? And so if I was going to say, man, we got to have this, and you're a fiscal responsibility person. Now, if you said, I don't care about fiscal responsibility, I don't care, we just want to be a rock star city, and we want everybody looking at us, cool. But that's not the platform. Remember, the platform is one of fiscal responsibility. So, hey, man, don't get mad at me. Well, you can get mad at me. I don't care. You're my governor, future governor. Maybe you're awesome. So I really don't know that much about him, right? So I'm not trying to judge him personally. I'm just going over the facts, right? And so the cleanest way to think about these events is they usually create short-term bump in visitor spending and some extra tax collections. That's cool. But there's very little data. And it is shown that they rarely create lasting fiscal transformation for a city budget. So it's not a long-term fiscal impact. It's a short-term fiscal impact. And in the academic literature, right, the big caution is that this headline economic impact numbers often overstate what governments actually keep. All right, because they ignore crowding out, they confuse substitution, leakages to the outside. the cost of police, traffic, sanitation. I mean, so look, I've done so many deep dives on this, and it's some mayors that are like really long-term fiscally prudent are like, I don't care if you move the stadium, move it across the boundary. That's what happened in Atlanta. Atlanta Braves. They're not Atlanta proper, man. Because the mayor, this was a way back, was like, I need long-term fiscal impact, and you guys have short-term costs, and you want $1 billion stadium. And like, look, I like sports, man. I don't want to lose sports as an American. I dig it. But is it really worth the billions of dollars that the taxpayers have to subsidize to make these things happen? And the data says no. But it sure is fun. So, but I thought Mayor Mahan was running on fiscal, not a fun platform. I'm just, okay. So the real question for cities is, how big is this economic impact? How much tax revenue did the city actually collect? And on this, I broke it down all three because I was really curious. All right. So let's talk about the Super Bowl, man. Right. Let's talk about the Super Bowl. I got this friend. He'll invite me to the Super Bowl every other year, but I think he only invites me when he knows I'm busy. And I think he invites like 50 people, and he only has like one extra ticket, and he wants everybody else to say no so he can. I think it's a game. I think it's a game for him. Like so he doesn't have to invite all these people, but he gets credit for inviting the Super Bowl. One day I'm going to say yes. I don't know. I'm just always tied up in it, seems like. So on the Super Bowl, all right, meaningful weekend activities. Yes, but it's not a budget miracle. For example, Minneapolis, and let me read this, reported that local tax collections for the Super Bowl in 2018 were $2.4 million above what they expected without the event. Great. Plus roughly another $100,000 in like land use revenue. And so in general fund improvements of 1.1 million in like parking funds and, parking meters and all that stuff. Right. So several $1 million, right? That was helpful, but still very modest in the total city budget terms. And at the same time, other studies and reports showed that the host cities often absorb the planning and the public safety costs. And so it $3 million, $3 million is kind of what they got one-time deal. Like it was a one-time bump up, I don't know, was it worth it? The citizens need to be well-informed, right? So, in 2015, the Super Bowl roughly cost cost around $580,000 to $1.2 million. And a Louisiana study said for the 2025 Super Bowl, it estimated that it was going to spend a much larger $28.4 million, right? In order to just all the stuff it had to do to get the Super Bowl there, and it was hoping that it was going to generate $48 million in new taxes. $48 million in new taxes? But we just said Minneapolis only got like $3.5 million. Okay, I'm still waiting to hear the numbers on this. But the point is, it's not well settled that just because you get the Super Bowl, the citizens are going to benefit long term. Short term, if it makes you feel good, it makes people interested in your city, it makes companies move there, it lets people know you're a player. That's all very important, by the way. Don't discount that, but don't say it's fiscally sound. Say you're trying to drive attention for your city for a myriad of other reasons, yes, but don't say it's fiscally prudent because you got no research to prove it. Okay, sorry. I get worked up by a bunch of BS, right? Okay, so the FIFA World Cup. The upside can be bigger than the Super Bowl because the events last longer, which was kind of makes sense because you have a lot of World Cup events. And host city may get like multiple matches. Los Angeles 2026 World Cup study projected $35 million in tax revenue for LA County and its surrounding cities, plus another $292 million for California, because you have like multiple events, right? So that kind of makes a little bit of sense, right? You start to have multiple things, multiple energy. I know that we're not a gigantic soccer, country, but we're turning that way. So, the same reports say that it may be a little bit better because of these multiple events, right? Okay, March Madness, near and dear to my heart. right? The fiscal effect is usually the smallest of the three unless a city hosts a Final Four or a larger cluster of games. So don't think all of March Madness because, the Final Four is a Final Four, man. Sweet 16 is a Sweet 16. Before that, I don't know, right? Is there a term for the 64? Do they have, I know we have the Elite Eight, the Sweet 16, right? Because it's not as cool, right? It's not as cool. And so Raleigh reported that for second round game generation, they got about 700,000 in direct revenue. Portland in 2026 said the second round got 22 million in direct visitor spending. I'm not really sure how they count all that, but so the short-term financial answer for these kind of events that Mayor Mahan is doing is yes, these events usually do generate extra tax dollars, especially hotel sales from food and beverages, parking, car rentals, things like that. The long-term fiscal answer is usually no, not in a way that materially fixes or strengthen the city's structural budget by itself. The tax bump is generally one time, and unless the city already has the stadiums, hotel rooms, transit, police capacity, etc., the public cost can eat up the gain. So I think the bottom line is with these events can be good for local businesses and create a temporary bump. They're usually not a dependable strategy for materially funding communities long term, right? And so that's kind of the data on that, right? I know I went off over here for a little bit, guys, but I think it's important that we don't just take political rhetoric on either side, and we're actually analyzing the facts. I know you're busy. Just listen to my podcast and send me some notes. I'll do the digging, man. I get worked up. So now here's the structural fact though for the mayor. So I'm going to get back to defending the mayor right now, right? Is under California law and San Jose city charter, which is like their constitution, right? So a city charter is much akin to a constitution. It's like the laws that they govern by. They just call them a charter instead of a constitution. The city has no legal obligation to fund the school district. Schools are a separate special district fund by property taxes and state aid. So not legally required to. Don't have to do it. So legally, Mahan can walk away and he's legally correct. But the question is are legal and the right thing to do the same? Are legally and politically convenient the same? Or are those two different things also? So I guess we could say he's not legally responsible, but what is the right thing to do, Mr. Mayor? Like, what is the right thing to do? I don't know. There is an issue that there is a case, and this has happened in the state of Tennessee, which is once you start funding something, it's very hard to uncork it. Because once you do it, it becomes kind of like an obligation, like an entitlement instead of a perk. And so if he starts funding it, will he be financially responsible for funding it forever? Or can they kind of put some strings attached to it and go, this is a one-time deal, school district, one time? Or we don't have the money right now. Like we all strapped for cash, man. Like, I don't know. Does he saddle in with the school district and go to the state to try to get more money? I don't know. It's my understanding that California is in a bit of a deficit too. And so, there's only so much money to go around and you got to use it well. But he is spending like over $30 million, by the way, on preparing for the Super Bowl, FIFA, NCAA March Madness. Maybe they ought not to do all that. Is that more important than taking care of the children that are in the city right now? I didn't hear anybody say anything, so I'm going to keep going. Okay, now here's the political problem. All right. Mahan is running for governor on fiscal responsibility, and his brand is, and I pulled this up, I fix broken systems. I make hard calls. I get results. That's what he says. 5 schools closing in your city while you're on the campaign trail is a story that kind of writes itself, doesn't it? And it doesn't feel good to me. And then you rejecting the superintendent's request for additional funds to take care of the students. I mean, I just didn't read a story in here that said he's rejecting it because the school district is fiscally wasting money in this area, this area, this area, and this area. And if they fix that, then I'll help them. Like I didn't feel that from it. It was kind of a not my job. You got to be better with your money. Maybe that's true, but he is running for governor right now, right? And the charter defense, like the city's charter defense, is the schools aren't my department. Sounds exactly like what every politician says right before they lose a race they should have won to me. It just feels like a deflection. Like, you're the leader of the community. You the boss. Now you want to be the boss of the entire state. You don't get to not take responsibility for everything in your field. That's like me saying, coming into the company and saying, well, I'm not responsible to take out the garbage. Man, if the garbage is piled up, it's my responsibility. You don't get to delegate responsibility ever. You only get to delegate task. Your responsibility is still whatever you're in charge of. He's in charge of the city, and the schools and the children in the city are all his responsibility, every mayor's responsibility, even if they don't have fiscal responsibility. As the leader, he should be helping. As the leader, he should be trying to find ways to get the best education for those children. I'm not saying given that the school district money is the answer, but I would like to see a team working together to help these kids. Okay, so the real hard question for me is that if Mahan generally believes in fiscal responsibility, why isn't he applying that to the lens of the school district? I mean, a governor who can't thread that needle, calling out both the district's management and the city's limited actions, doesn't feel like a super powerful leader. And I'm going to challenge him, like, hey man, you want to look like a great leader? Challenge the school district on fiscal responsibility. Let them know you have limited tools because you're limited. But then now what? Let's figure out a solution. But one who deflects like a politician is exactly that, a politician. Because the children in San Jose are reading, and I had to pull this up, okay? And this is the mayor's freaking responsibility. Don't be mayor if you don't want to be in charge of all the citizens. Go sit at home. Go to your NCAA games. Go to your Super Bowl. Go do all your fun stuff. I'm going to have to do some more digging. I don't know if I like this person or not. I'm starting to get on my nerves, right? He is. Because listen to this. The children, okay, I wrote this down. The San Jose children are reading at a grade level at roughly 33% of where they should be. That's not a school closure story. That's a workforce pipeline problem. That's a public safety story. That's a city competitiveness story. That's the mayor's lane, whether the charter says it or not. Okay. I know. I don't know enough to be this judgmental over this mayor, but weak leadership smells like weak leadership to me. I hope he's not. I hope, and prove me wrong, man. Maybe he is proving me wrong. I'm probably going to have to follow up. I hope I get some people yelling at me about this. So I've done a good job because I need to dig into this more. So I'm going to talk about the two cases. Why should the city invest? Why should the city not? Because I think there's logical reasons, man. And maybe it's not getting covered in, one news outlet, but let's hear it. I want to see the superintendent and the mayor standing together. They're going to solve this reading problem, this workforce problem, this public safety problem. Because if these kids can't read and they graduate, they're going to become a public safety problem. All right. Okay. Here's the case for the city investment. I got 5 bullets for the pro and con, 2 and 3. All right. Here's the case for the city's investment. The cities that let school systems deteriorate pay for it downstream. This is why the city should invest, right? Because in crime, poverty, and lost tax base, and in population flight, the city's ultimately going to pay the bill. It's going to come out of your budget somewhere, whether you're not like it or not. Something that the charter requires, like policing, crime, poverty, right? Loss of tax base. San Jose is already experiencing like an outmigration right now. Families are leaving because of the cost of living is too high. Schools are struggling. You can't solve that kind of one without the other. Okay. A targeted city investment, not a blank check. No. I never would recommend a blank check for any government. Okay. A targeted city investment, not a blank check. It is really tied to outcomes. It is very limited and lets everyone know that you're working towards something, but this school district's got to prove it is important. I think that they might want to rethink that. Now, the case against. The city really does have its own structural deficit. Its rainy day fund is nearly gone. So I don't know really where they'd come up with the money anyway. Like that's a real problem for them. Like we got to be honest about that. And the school district's problem isn't a revenue problem at its core. The revenue is kind of growing over a decade. The district spent its kind of way into this crisis. So I would be like, look, like meet us halfway. You want 35 million or whatever it is that they wanted. Well, you let's sit down with a forensic audit and let's cut 15 million and maybe we can come up with 15 million over 3 years. That's 5 million a year. I mean, that's something. And $5.5 billion budget. I think they got some cuts too. Maybe you say we're not going to do, the Super Bowl. Sorry, I guess you don't get to go sit at the Super Bowl in your city. Sorry, that couple million to get all that prep. Maybe you should go to the schools. Just something to think about. All right. So I wouldn't recommend the city give more money over bad money. And a poorly managed system that doesn't produce better children, you really got to look at that. And so the city shouldn't write a check, but the mayor shouldn't hide behind the charter either. And the play for like a serious gubernatorial candidate is to convey and to bridge people together for a common benefit, right? And I'm not saying it's easy, but these aren't volunteer jobs. These are jobs you signed up for. You want to be the superintendent. You didn't have to take it. You want to be the mayor. You didn't have to. You ran for it. You won. Now these are your issues to deal with. So I would say they got to go back to the drawing board, and they shouldn't be doing this in the press. They need to all realize that public schools don't fail in isolation. They fail because everyone with power found a reason it wasn't their job. So, man, I hope they can come together. All right. Thanks.